We're still having some of Austria's white wine, pretty sweet. Eddie, you're still having German beer?
I opened another bottle.
All right. Guys, as you can see in the back, we're talking about Ayrton Senna today. Eddie, there's been an incident in Suzuka 93, which has been your first ever Formula One race in a Jordan. You finished 6th, but the story of the race was, when you were up against Damon Hill, Senna was coming up behind you. And you probably just talk us through what happened.
Well, it actually started earlier in the weekend. I'd been out testing, and Senna came up behind me, so I moved out of his way, let him go, and then I was on a quick lap, and he kind of just held me up, you know, as if I was a nobody and it didn't matter. He was more important to me, which that was in his head. It was not what was in my head. So then the next chance, then I held him up during the rest of the weekend on the Saturday or something to say, you know, I'm here for me, so don't ever think that, you know, because you're Ayrton Senna, I'm going to give you extra kudos, you know. I had one chance to make it, and Suzuka was my chance, and I wasn't going to give that up for anybody. So, but then in the race, he'd come up behind me, and I was fighting, I think, with Damon for 4th position or something like that. You know, it's my first Grand Prix. I'm fighting with the Williams, which is the best car in Formula One. I'm thinking this is pretty good. So Damon or Senna came up behind me, and I let him through, but then Damon didn't let him through. So I'm sitting behind Senna trying to get at Damon. So I overtake Senna, and then I overtake Damon, and Damon should have let Senna through at that point, which he didn't. So then Damon overtook me again, so then I overtook Damon or something like that, and I went back forward, and then Senna overtook the two of us, and off he went. But so he was correct in the fact that we were back markers and we should have let him go, but it actually wasn't me, it was Damon Hill was the guy that should have let him go first, because I had let him go, and Damon didn't. So, but I think it was from the previous 2 days he was annoyed at me because I didn't bow down to him.
Yeah. And then after the race, obviously, he came towards the Jordan Hospitality or container or whatever it was back then, and probably just tell us what happened. I mean, it's well documented that he punched you, but tell us the story.
Well, I was Mr. Happy. You know, I just finished 6th in my first Grand Prix, and you know, should have really finished higher, but we screwed up the pit stop, so I was happy, I had no problems, but he came down. Berger had been winding him up, saying that something or other that I had been laughing at him or something, I don't know, but I heard Berger had been stirring the pot, and then he came down to me and started shouting and screaming at me, which, you know, I didn't really care. I had got a point in my first Grand Prix, so and because I wasn't, again, giving him the respect he kind of wanted, he got all annoyed with me. So he swung at me, and I was sitting on the top of a table. My feet were on the table, and my bum was on the back of a chair, so I was in a very precarious position. So he swung at me, and he kind of just caught me a little bit, but I was getting out of the way of the punch, and I fell off the chair. So it was like, it wasn't a big punch as such, but yeah, it was uncalled for and not very classy, but it was a big story. I went from being a nobody to being obviously very famous overnight, not for the reasons I wanted to, because it overshadowed my whole weekend. You know, I'd qualified a Jordan higher than it had been all year, and I went around the outside of Schumacher and Damon Hill and some other guys. I went around the outside of 4 guys, I think, at the first 2 corners in Suzuka. So I was really pleased with that, but that didn't get much really press, which is a bit of a shame.
You took a place in history with that incident, didn't you? I mean, obviously we are talking about it
in history, but it wasn't really. It's not really an impressive thing. You know, if you look at my first 2 corners of Suzuka, that was impressive. You know, having an argument with Senna was not something you really want to be known for.
Yeah. Eddie, knowing what you know now, you've been the young gun in this situation. He was the respected guy, and obviously you can have. I mean, I understand that he was mad basically for overlapping. I guess you would react in a similar way. Knowing what you know now, would you act any different than you did back then?
Not really. I was out there for myself, as every driver's out there, you know. I've had it where young guys have come in, like, you completely understand it. It's their chance to make it. So, you know, the pressure's on them. There's no one in Formula One sitting there having an easy life. You know, if anyone was having an easy life, it's Senna, someone with that talent and that power. The young guys coming in, they are 11 tenths all the time, and they're the guys that are trying the hardest.
Yeah. Tell me, how did it end? It's well documented that Ayrton said at a press conference sometime a little bit later that nothing justifies hitting him, which basically we all agree probably. But was there any talk you had about it any time later? I mean, it was not so long until Imola 94 when he died, but did you have the opportunity to talk to him about it again?
Not really. We shook hands about it, but, you know, he was obviously annoyed because he got in so much trouble. He wasn't annoyed for what he did. He was annoyed because he got in so much trouble. You know, Senna was a kind of like an enigma. On one side, he was very kind to certain people, and on other sides, he was very arrogant and believed everything was for him. You know, like the way he believed God, you know, was going to give him the right to win the races. Well, everybody's God's kids, as far as I'm concerned. So I never quite understood that. It was quite a mysterious way his brain worked, but an amazing talent.
Yeah. And obviously, after the first episode that we already aired on YouTube and on our website, we got some remarks from readers that you have the Senna helmet in your Miami home. Is there any reason for that?
No, I was always a big fan of Senna's from when he was racing Formula Ford 1600, because I was wanting to go racing then, but I was still only probably about 14 or something like that, or maybe 15. So I followed him in Formula Ford 1600, then Formula Ford 2000, then Formula 3, then the Formula 1. So I was a big fan. I'm still a fan of his driving. Wouldn't be particularly big fan of the man, but I loved his driving and his commitment and his talent.
Yeah. So that's why you got the helmet. Did you buy it, or how did you get it?
I don't know how I got it, to be honest. Actually, no idea.
Is it the only helmet you have?
No, I've got a Stefano Modena one. I've got a Jeff Krosnoff one. I've got a few other bits and pieces, but that's it. Nothing significant.
All right. Eddie, anything you
significantly, you know, on a personal side to me, but nothing, you know, big, and like I don't have a Michael helmet or any of them, that sort of thing, you know.
Yeah. Anything you would like to add about Senna, about the incident?
Well, the incident, not really. It's been talked about so much. It's kind of boring. It's obviously it was whenever he got killed, it was a big turning point for Formula One. And I think part of the problems we have today is still a legacy of the reach to try and make it safer and safer. I think you got to make the cars as safe as you can, but I think the circuits have gone way too far, pushing spectators too far away and making the races dull.
All right. Eddie, thanks a lot for sharing. Hope you enjoyed your drink, and thank you for watching.